we'll get started early then. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Finance Committee meeting for the Stratford Public Schools. My name is Amy Wiltsey, Finance Chair. It is Monday, June 26th, and I will call this meeting to order. On our agenda this evening, we have the acceptance of minutes from May 22nd, 2023. I will entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Henrik, seconded by Ms. Carol Fabian. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item on our agenda is a budget transfer. We've got one budget transfer for this evening, and I will read it as stated. Proposed transfer to cover various safety, cafeteria, and maintenance upgrades in the district. Use available balances in Object 111, 112, 130 due to vacancies and savings to offset this balance in Object 400. The total budget transfer amount is $342,629. I will entertain a motion to accept this budget transfer.
So moved.
Second. Thank you very much. Motion made by Ms. Cupie, seconded by Ms. Lisa Carol Fabian. I will take a roll, discussion. Pam, would you like to first explain the budget transfer and then we will open it up to questions?
I'd be happy to. What we've presented to you is a transfer request that would cover the balance of the school's signage project, along with air conditioning units for the server room at Wilcoxon and a replacement of the air conditioning unit in the nurse's office at Worcester. We also need an additional $20,000 for the cabling of the vape systems, and quite frankly, that was our oversight when we brought you the initial transfer last time around. We were getting quotes, and we thought it was included in one of the Mercury cable quotes, but unfortunately it was not. So we do need some additional funding for that. And the other large one is the walk-in freezer project. This has been something that has been requested by our food service program for quite a few years. If you've ever walked down the hallway to the side of the cafeteria at Flood, oftentimes you're going to see a lot of just boxes and food, and the part of that reason is they have such limited space, and it is the hub for where all our deliveries come. And what's been happening is we are not able to oftentimes buy in as large bulk as we could to save money because we have nowhere to store. We did try at the beginning of last school year to actually rent a trailer, and by the time we crossed all our T's and dotted all our I's and Rich worked with the town, unfortunately there were no freezers that were trailers to be found to rent. So another year has passed, and Ms. Rosa came to me again. We tried to fit it into our spend down plan that the state had required us to do, and I've mentioned to you previously about replacing a lot of food service equipment throughout the district, but unfortunately it was a little bit too costly. So we're hoping you can support this. We did get pricing already to do it has to have a cement slab, and of course Rich can do a much better job explaining all of that than I can, but then we do have the price for the actual walk-in freezer, and it would be on the outside of the building. And in the long run, obviously, it more than likely will last us decades, and it will really help save money from just being able to buy products in bulk and just more efficiencies.
Pam, when you say more efficiencies and help solve the problem, will it solve the problem? Will it be sufficient space?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes.
Mr. Parga?
Is this a full replacement of the current, or is this an addition to the current? So we're increasing space and keeping what we have?
That's exactly what we're doing because the space we have is so inadequate right now.
Thank you.
Mrs. Bedell, did I see your hand up? Okay. Mr. Henry?
I do. So, I think you showed $1.3 million surplus further on down the line. And we, last month, I think we transferred about $1 million, $580,000. First off, is that 1.3, is that after last month's transfer?
I don't believe we transferred quite that much last month. We could have.
980,000.
Okay. Yes, it is. It is.
Okay.
We've identified, and I can kind of give you a brief answer to that, but I'll go into it when we look at our expenses and encumbrances. But we identified a couple of other areas, and as I've said, each month, we tighten our salary lines each month. So you are a month behind in what you're getting from us. This evening, you have May's, and we can talk more about it.
So in theory, with last month's transfer and the balance, we would have had, if we didn't spend it, down about $2.3 million.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, and then as far as these change items, do you have more detail on any of this stuff other than, I mean, the school signage project, what is it? The vaping, do we have bids or numbers, the cabling system, or
Sure.
the AC, the walk-in freezer, is it something that we have numbers? I mean, typically when we, I don't know, back over at the town side, typically when we make purchases or change orders of this size, we get a fairly detailed accounting of where this number comes from. And I'm not saying I'm not opposed to you know, upgrading or upkeeping our assets, but it would be nice to see a little more detail than a, you know, one line, $150,000 walk-in. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, no, I can understand that, and absolutely, we do have I have in front of me from, Restaurant City Equipment, who is warehouse fixtures. They are on the state bid. I do have a formal quote from them for the installation in the walk-in freezer, and then we do have a quote for the slab and the work related to that from Danielle LLC that the town allows us to do business with. And that actually totaled a little bit more because one of the bids we just got yesterday, and it actually comes to $160,000. So we're going to be working with the vendors a little bit to make sure that we're around that 150. So we sometimes do give you an estimate of what the cost is going to be and work normally 90% of the time with direct quotes. But this time of year it is a little bit difficult between May and June because there's so many people, particularly warehouse store fixtures. A lot of schools are trying to get work done for the summer, so they get a little busy. But we do have the quotes. The cabling, as I said, we did bring you information on the vape systems last month, but Rich is here. He can certainly give you more info. And the air conditioning units, we do have formal quotes on. One is $9,837, and the other one is $12,792.
And the signage project, is that?
That I will ask both Dr. Osunde and Rich to give you more information on.
So the signage that's at the schools now, we've had some problems with them falling down because they're so old. So we decided we wanted to go out to bid and see about getting new signage. So what the signage will look like, it's a freestanding. It's going to have some stonework. Some schools might be different.
It's composite.
Depending on what's on.
Composite.
Yeah, it's all composite, so it's not like actual brick and actual stone. And there's signage in the middle, so we'll have some pillars coming up that'll be in the fake stone or fake brick around the base, and then the signage in the middle will be plywood with
The school sign.
signage with metal on it, and that's all painted to the school color and all that.
And I could extend on that. So all of our schools, with the exception of Stratford High School, have outdated signs. And the school sign is one of the first things that people see when they come on campus. So we have an opportunity to make uniform across our school system, every school with a contemporary and updated sign. And truthfully, I had Rich work with the vendor, and we've seen some pretty neat renderings on schools. And Rich was also able to get cost estimates on that, and that's why we're bringing that to the board, or to the finance committee, and ultimately the board this evening.
So how many signs?
13.
It'll be all of our schools with the exception of Stratford High, because they have that nice skywalk sign on the King Street campus.
So we're looking at about $12,000
Yeah, the average between 10 and 11. Double sided, it's 11 and change. Single sided, it'll be 10,000 and change.
And if you travel across the state, I know this because I did this project in my past life, but if you travel across the state, a lot of campuses have really invested in that initial monolith that you see on campus. And oftentimes the cost can be as much as 30 or 40 grand. And I give an incredible amount of credit to Rich and the work he's done to find us an opportunity to find some quality things that will welcome families and community members on our campuses.
And again, I'm not opposed to the concept, but
Sure.
I think going forward, just for my own sake, I mean, we're throwing around hundreds of thousands of dollars here every month, and the detail and the information we're getting is minimal, and we're kind of saying, yeah, we trust you, but, it's our neck we're putting on the line too, so I would personally like to see, moving forward, more detail about these things. You guys have obviously done the work, you're aware of what it is, you've got some paperwork there, Ms. Bianchini. We haven't seen it, we haven't had a chance to review it, so, it kind of, it doesn't give us the opportunity to be efficient at what we're doing,
I
so-
think it-
That makes sense,
and I
yeah. I
agree.
think we can-
Absolutely.
And that's good feedback for me. I can take that back and we'll certainly implement that. We do have some things that I can potentially connect with you offline and share or show with you, but I think your request is very doable.
And just, seeing it, if we approve this, it doesn't matter, because it's approved. I would like to see it before we vote on it, so we kind of know what we're voting on beyond, a one line item, $150,000 one line item, so, just, thank you.
Mr. David, you had your hand raised?
I did, and I just don't want to go off the rails because I think this is important what we're talking about, 342,000. But to Pam and I guess the Board of Ed, how much, we have 4 days left in the year. For spend downs and stuff like that, are you going to come up with more? There's going to be some, is this it? This is the
Yeah.
final?
Unless we've made a mistake on one of our estimates, which I don't believe. We've had discussions about this as administration, and I'm pleased to say that the people that I work with, from Dr. Osunday on, follow my train of thought. While we do our best to try to provide everything we can to our schools and in the classrooms first, we are not of the mindset that we are just going to spend down to spend down. We are trying to identify things that are worthwhile. So we have started looking at all of this back in March and really being thoughtful about it. So to your point, Bob, no, we are not going to rush in the last few days to just
Yeah,
spend money.
and to my point is more of this, where we find out on tomorrow or Wednesday, we have $22,000 to buy things that we've needed over the years, whether it's been maybe it's soccer uniforms that haven't been replaced in 6 years, or it could be band uniforms at one school, or it could be a water fountain at one school. That's what I'm talking about. And that I would hope that we don't delay it until next fiscal year when, we might have different issues.
Yeah.
Definitely in 2 fiscal years, right?
Absolutely right. We've been working with our schools on those things, to
Okay.
identify those things. And I remember one of our last meetings, you made a reference about a 3D printer. I don't know if you,
Yeah.
one of the last finance meetings. So we're finding opportunities, but the directive that I've given this administration is find every opportunity to acquire things that will help our schools and build our infrastructure and things that can contribute to the academic needs that we do have. But I have zero problems standing in front of people and speaking about the justifications that we do have. But the one thing we will not do is, and again, this is the directive I've given my administration and all of our principals, is engage in frivolous spending that doesn't make sense. I would much rather work with the town in other directions around the year-end balances.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions regarding this budget transfer? Pam, I have one additional question with regard to the cabling of vape systems. Is this an improvement on the systems that exist, or is this an additional system?
I defer to the experts in the room,
Yeah.
Matt and Rich, but I believe it's additional because we don't have the right
Yeah,
wiring
we don't
for
have
the sensors.
Any sensors, and they all need a cable to go to it in order to make them operate.
At all secondary schools? Middle
Yeah.
and high schools?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, that was my question. Thank you. Okay, without any other questions with regard to this budget transfer, I will take a roll call vote. Mr. David?
Yes.
Mr. Proto?
Yes.
Mr. Henrik?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedell?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Corcoran?
Yes.
Mrs. Carol Fabian?
Yes.
Mrs. Cupie?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you all very much. Okay, we are on to financial reports. Ms. Mangini, it's your floor again.
I did provide you with the report through May, and as I've said all along, we've had a lot of movement, and not always for good movement within our salaries for this fiscal year. In the entire school year, we've had people come and go. We've had numerous CIA positions that we have not been able to fill. We haven't been able to fill a lot of tutor positions, a host of challenges, and as a result, we have continued to see funding become available. And our salaries at this point are reflecting obviously a lower balance because you did transfer some funds out of there to use for some of the things we've brought you over the last couple of months. But coinciding with a savings from salaries, you're going to have a savings from benefits, whether that's employer taxes, health insurance, and again, that is what you are seeing there in the benefits line. We also had a favorable year when it came to unemployment, which was very nice. We started the year with the end of the American Rescue Act's credit, but that was only 2 months. So we had a little bit of savings there, but our trending has been a lot lower than it's been over the last couple of years. So that's a combination of things. Property services is a newer reflection of a projected balance. We have been watching utilities carefully, and I think we had probably a little bit milder to an average winter, but our natural gas accounts were actually showing deficits. So we were watching those carefully, and as we caught up in the past few weeks, because we are about 6 to 7 weeks behind in our invoicing from the utility companies. So in beginning of May, we're getting perhaps March invoices, and we are reflecting that we're going to have a significant savings in our electricity accounts. So we are taking a little bit closer look, but the struggle that we've had is the fact that the town we work with the town, and the fixed rate for electricity is locked in from November 1 through October 31. So we were struggling this year as well as next year's budget to calculate where we thought we would be. So we've been hesitant to reduce those accounts, but we're going to continue to watch them carefully. And please don't forget that Stratford High School is heated by electricity, and that is where our primary savings has been in this fiscal year. So I believe some of that is from a not really cold winter, and I'm just very apprehensive of what the future might bring. So we'll continue to watch those, and I'll pause there.
Were you all set in explaining?
Yeah, for the most part, I was just going to mention that the same, that our workers' comp, we're saving some money there. And just to give you an idea, we get a weekly invoice from PMA telling us what our liability is. It's a sheet for the whole town. Board of Ed is a department. It can go from $3,000 up to most recently $16,000 for that 1 week. So it's a very difficult area of the budget to really project, and every year it's different. And we're self-funded, so we pay the claims as they come in.
I'm just curious if the reduction in UI rates for the rest of the year will hit the schools as well, or is that locked-in rate going to?
Our locked-in rate is probably lower than that, but it's only, don't forget that when you have a locked-in rate, it's usually just on one portion of your bill, the generation fee opposed to the transmission fee, so you are getting hit with all the higher fees from the other side of it. But we are at a very low, I think it's like 7.3 cents or something. It's really low. It was a very good contract that they locked into.
Other questions for Mrs. Mangini? Mr.
Yeah,
David?
if someone can remind me, wasn't Stratford High electricity supposed to be converted one day to solar, or am I not remembering things correctly?
I'm looking at Rich.
Solar's actually gonna be getting ready to go on. We just had the kickoff meeting on last week. So they're gonna start bringing stuff over there very shortly.
So by let's say July 1st of 2024, 25. we
Depends
should
on
be-
when they finish the project. They're looking probably by October, end of October, that they'll finish the project.
Oh, this year?
Yeah, because they're getting ready to start putting the panels on.
Okay.
So, but then there's a whole,
I know
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not seamless.
It's not.
Okay.
And it does take a few months after that to actually recognize any savings. 3 to 6, I think, is what we were
6,
told when we
But
did
for
that.
budgeting purposes for 24, 25, we should be pretty good.
We should see some savings.
we should see some savings. There's a lot of panels going up
Okay.
on Stratford
All right.
High.
So it's ready to go, okay.
Yeah, almost.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. But it's moving in the right direction, thank you.
Yes.
Mr.
And
Henry?
just to follow up on the solar panels, those solar panels are paid for by the town, correct?
Yeah.
So there's no output on this?
Correct.
And solar, we don't have a storage facility or storage capabilities for any of the electricity generated from the
We don't.
solar? So on cloudy days, we don't.
It probably, yeah, it'd probably be pulling back electricity from,
So we can't just shut off the
no,
meter and go 100% solar?
no.
Yeah. So it's only when the need is there and when the sun is out that we
Right.
can take advantage of that. But,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have to pay for it because that would offset.
Not
any
on the Board of Ed
savings.
side, no.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, if there are no other questions, we will move on to item number 2 with grants update from Dr. Clemmie.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So you have a grant report in your packet as of May 31st, 2023. So as Ms. Mangini said, we've run a bit behind on this. So what I thought I would do is start with a review because you'll see that there are funds which expire on June 30th, which were not spent out on May 31st. So let me ease your mind a little bit and say that all of those funds have been spent with the exception of 2 grants. One is the Alliance Grant, the other is the School Readiness Grant, and we're not supposed to spend all of that money. So what's going to be left over there is where it's supposed to be. Another piece of news I wanted to share. Last week we had a federal inspector come from Washington, D.C. to review our School Violence Prevention Program grant. And after spending the morning with myself, Mr. Ruggiero, Mr. Castro, and 3 representatives from the police department, the inspector left with no findings, financial or programmatic. So that all went very smoothly. And with that, I'm ready to take any questions you might have.
Dr. Clemmie, when you say no findings, what was the purpose of, if you can explain a little bit more about
So
it?
the School Violence Prevention Program grant was a grant from the U.S. Department of Justice, and the purpose of it was to make the schools physically safer in 2 ways. 4 schools got extra security cameras put in place, and all of the schools and campus facilities got indoor and outdoor blue safety lights put into place using federal dollars. It was a 25% match on the town's part. 75% of it came from the federal government. And there were no findings on the financial side. They were happy with the equipment that was put in, and we were able to document everything they wanted to see.
Was that meeting also an assessment of safety or just of the way we spent dollars?
It was a way of what the dollars were spent on and how they were spent and documented.
Okay.
And just for clarification, so in this report, the last item on page 1 is Title I, and then the remainder of page 2. Those have expiration dates of 2024.
Correct.
You said all the money was expended except for the dollars.
Everything was expended that ends on June 30th, 2023.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Clemmie? Okay, thank you very much. Will anyone be offering Ms. Borges' report in her absence?
I'd be happy to
Thank you.
go over it with you. As you will see, it coincides with the monthly financial report that you receive, and as we had said, her budget is reflecting an adjusted budget line item, and she has some balance in tuition that is a little bit less, as you can see, budget to year-to-date expenses. And she is trending on track with supplies and instructional equipment. And she has indicated the total number of students that we're servicing, as well as noting that the outplacements are actually down yet again this month. And this again is reflective of the month of May. So again, it's been a more positive year for special education, and I know that Ms. Burgess is very pleased that she's been able to not only bring some students back into the district that we really do feel is valued for both, you know, the student as well as the district, but she has been able to, because of some of those savings, offer the services that we really needed to bring up to snuff. And we have also gotten some good equipment throughout the district for special ed, the sensory rooms and things of that nature, so throughout the year. So I think she's in very good shape.
The 300 line item under professional services, where it says it shall be in a deficit in this account due to compensatory education, is that something that's going to be offered over the summer?
Actually, I believe, yes, it will.
Okay.
We have taken some of those funds. We were allowed to use ESSER funds, so we'll be able to do some of that over the summer. But I will also say that I think from May, June, she's also been catching up on a lot of that as well.
Okay, wonderful. Are there any questions with regard to, yes, Ms. Goodall?
Can you just go back to the words adjusted budget for a minute? Why are we at an adjusted budget?
I think if you take a look at, I'm sorry, I have to grab my own papers here. The number that is reflected there, every time, don't forget, we've had to add money to clinical costs, so you've approved transfers. That's what that number is reflecting, instead of the original budget. Sorry, I wasn't clear about that.
Yeah, we've done that several times.
Yes.
Just wanted to make sure I was looking at
The right number.
Yeah.
Any other questions with regard to special education? Well, I would just like to applaud Ms. Borges and her team for bringing students back to the district. I know it's a conversation that we've had for years, and I hope that they're happy to be back, and I know that being a part of the community is a big part of the education. So wherever she is, hopefully she's enjoying vacation, and she can tune in to hear that. Back to you, Mrs. Mangini, for food services report.
Yeah, you will see this month that the month net income loss actually shows a loss, but please bear in mind two things. One, this was during April vacation because it reflects the month of April. So of course our total revenue and our sales was missing a week. And secondly, it is definitely a timing issue on the revenue. As we note on the bottom, the board is to receive state reimbursements for both March and April that are pending. So again, we are doing very well. We have a very healthy fund balance for our food service program, and this is even in spite of the fact that we are spending down for equipment as the state required us to do so. As I've mentioned previously, we can't have more than 3 months of operating costs in our fund balance for a food service program. So we're in really good shape there. And we continue to watch. I think it's been a combination of a good partnership with Sodexo, as well as maybe me being a little bit of a nag if we're having too many staff members or just whatever the case may be, and trying to take advantage of savings wherever we can.
Mr. David?
I need to make one comment, Pam. Thank you so much for these little footnotes, these A&Bs. Took about 20 years, but thank you. It's good stuff.
You're welcome.
Pam, can you just provide the board and the committee and the public with any information with regard to summer food? Are there programs running for?
Yeah, we're still participating in the seamless summer option, so we will be providing food over the summer as well.
And that's all on our website?
I believe it is, and I will confirm that tomorrow morning.
Perfect. And our camp's in session, so
Yes.
thank you very much. Okay, any questions with regard to food services and Ms. Mangini's report? Okay, well, thank you, and right back to you for enrollment registration status.
Okay, again, this is enrollment as of June 1st, and as you will see, there wasn't any significant change. We're up about 8 students throughout our school system, and a net of 7 for total enrollment when you adjust for outplacements and other choice schools. So we are monitoring this very carefully. We do look at these numbers as well as our kindergarten registrations and all our new registrations as we are placing students. And I believe we had that discussion not too long ago at last week's budget meeting about our class sizes for the new school year. So we will continue to monitor them closely, but really no significant changes since our last report.
Any questions with regard to Mr. Henry?
So, on one of the graphs per school, Second Hill Lane, I noticed some of those are highlighted yellow.
Right, I think I will just remind you that those are the dual language classes. We wanted to make sure they were clear because there was a little confusion in the previous meeting. So those do represent the 2 dual language classes for each grade level.
And those 2 other outside lines, are they ABA, what are they?
They are ABA.
They're, both those line items are? Or- Okay. And then, just one last question, Second Hill, Victoria Soto, back on the main page. We went from 159 to 223. Is that just because we have that as open enrollment, and as parents have a need, they can sign up, or it's a big jump from?
We added.
There were
Yeah.
extra spots, there were extra seats added.
There were, and I also think,
And there were a couple extra classrooms.
Yeah, did you add an extra classroom?
So that was just open opportunity and need?
yeah, and it also, I think, was a little tweaking of our reporting too. I'm not so sure we were capturing all the numbers when you had brought to our attention. It wasn't adding up, so I think we're definitely tightening it all up. So thank you for your observations.
So in theory, without soda, without the jump in soda, our numbers are less than they were last year, our final numbers, it looks like. I mean, it shows we're about 100 less, but I think with soda and the preschool, pre-K.
Well, last year at this time, we had 1 less student.
And Soto counts, I mean, they are students, they're pre-K,
yeah.
but they are still our students.
Sure, no, I understand, but yeah, thank you.
Are there any other questions with enrollment and registration? I would like to just point out Pam, you often talk about things working their way out with registration and enrollment. And we hear oftentimes that one school is bustling and the other school, has seats. And if you follow the trend of Worcester flood, one's higher, one's lower, one's higher, one's lower. Year after year, they do kind of shift, whereas Stratford High right now is bustling, and it looks like next year Bunnell might catch up and be an equal number. So I appreciate seeing this all the time so that we know where our classes are and who needs the most help, so thank you. Okay, anything else for the good of the order with Finance Committee meeting? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So, second by Ms. Fabian. Thank you very much. Meeting's adjourned at 7:04 PM.